What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Triple H podcast, Happy Hour Hoops. Steve and myself holding it down tonight. Jake is not on this week, but he'll be back, and he is dearly missed, of course. Me and Steve will be talking everything NBA, guys. Obviously, right around the corner from the NBA Finals. OKC is on their way to the Finals. We'll talk about the Timberwolves going home. We'll talk about OKC moving forward, and we will preview Knicks Pacers Game 5 tonight, what we think of the rest of that series, who we think moves on, all that good stuff. Steve, how we doing? We excited to talk ball or what?
Yeah, we are. I'm excited. I'm excited to get a little Anthony Edwards victory lap in. I'm very excited for that. I'm excited to talk about this Pacers-Knicks series, which I know we talked to a little bit before the pod started, Dunny, but this has been, I think, my favorite series so far in the playoffs. I know it's 3-1 right now. It feels like, it's 2-2 in my mind. Just the way the series was going feels pretty even. And I'm excited to see Game 5 here. I'm excited to see kind of the Knicks with their backs up against the wall, must-win game, home at the Garden. Like it's going to be crazy. The atmosphere in there is going to be wild. This is the biggest game for the Knicks in over 20, 25 years. So I'm really excited to see how that is. And then your reward for the Pacers Knicks series is you get to play the Oklahoma City Thunder, who 68 win team, going to the NBA Finals. Happy for them. This is also a team with multiple draft picks in the next, for multiple first-round picks in the upcoming drafts, as well as a teams that, best players 26. They have a young core that is, I think, average age is like 23, 24 years old. This is a team that, Dunny, I dare say, this could be the start of a dynasty, this NBA Finals this year. So this is pretty cool what we're witnessing right now. We're witnessing, in my opinion, one of the best young teams we've really ever seen, and a potential for a start of a dynasty. And we know the NBA loves their dynasties. You had the San Antonio Spurs, right? You had the Golden State Warriors. Maybe it is Oklahoma City Thunder's time. And that would be pretty cool to see kind of a small market like that get a dynasty that kind of homegrown. I know SGA was traded, but really didn't become SGA until after the trade, and everyone else kind of around the team has been drafted by them. So it's going to be really, really cool to see. Now that the Timberwolves are out, I have no, I think rooting interest. I definitely would like to see the Pacers win it all, but I'd be happy for any of the remaining three teams to win a championship this year. I don't know how you feel, but that's kind of how I feel. It feels like a win-win for me. I know there's a lot of people who are going to complain about the small market NBA Finals. Our ratings are going to suck. Me personally, I'm really excited for this Finals.
Yeah, so the small market shit does not bother me at all. These just happen to be two teams that I'm actually fond of. I like Indiana's makeup. I like their roster. I like their style of play. I like Rick Carlisle. I think just also a city of deserving fans like that. Not even your city, that state loves basketball. Um, and I think I just am kind of always been a fan of the Pacers. Like even dating back to the Danny Granger days, like early Paul George. Like they've just always kind of been a fun team. And then OKC. I mean, I know I've spoken about it multiple times on the pod, but the dark years of the Celtics, which to other city fans you might not think it was that long, but like I'm talking like post KG Paul Pierce era, or at least the back half of that era. And then, like, the very early days after those guys left, I kind of adopted OKC as a secondary team just because Kevin Durant, and, I was a fan of him in college and then watching him as a young player, then obviously Russ, Harden. So I grew to like OKC a lot. I got, like, fully invested in that squad. When that team broke up, I didn't like the OKC as much, but I still have, I still like the city and the team and the colorways and the jerseys, and I think that's a good fan base as well. So I have no problem with the small market. I also think it's good. I think it's good to switch it up sometimes. It's not always the same champions. I think the LeBron being in Cleveland and having his battles with Steph and Golden State, like all those finals were awesome. But you remember at that time people being a little sick of it by the end, being like, are we really just going to get the same two teams every year? So I think it's good that we have NBA Finals this way. And if I'm being honest, I hope New York doesn't make it, but I think people could expect that as a Celtics fan. But yeah, otherwise, I'm happy with this. And let's start with OKC, Minnesota. So we'll have a lot more to say about OKC and like what them going to the finals means. But OKC gets it done. They win the series in five. Didn't ever really feel close. I think even Minnesota stealing that game. I don't know about you, but like there was never a point where Minnesota won that game, and I was like, oh, here come the Timberwolves.
That was the thing, right? Because they won by 40
Yeah.
on game three, their first home game. They won by 40, but it almost just felt like Thunder were missing their shots. Minnesota was hitting everything in that first half, and the Thunder just said, "All right, like you got us tonight." And sometimes you can do that. You can have the luxury of doing that in a 7-game series, especially a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who has been as dominant as any team we've ever seen in the past few years at home. They have a 2-0 lead already going into that game, right? And it's a situation where this is a Thunder team that won 68 games of the regular season. They know how to win. And they also know when it's not their night. And I kind of watched that game and the way Minnesota just, they couldn't miss. Everyone was scoring. And it was a situation where I just felt like, all right, like I feel like the Thunder are just going to see what happens next game. And to Minnesota's credit, they gave them a much tougher battle in game four than in games one and two. But kind of same deal. You just never felt like Thunder were going to lose that game. And then once they were up 3-1 in the series, it's like, all right, Minnesota's not going to win two on the road against Oklahoma City. That's just not what's going to happen. But that's kind of how I felt too, Dunny. I mean, it's weird in the NBA, especially this year in the playoffs, right? Because you have these blowouts that are happening more often than we've kind of ever really seen, where it feels like, oh, this team won by 40 and then they lose the next game. And it hasn't just been the Minnesota, Oklahoma City series. It's been a lot of these playoff series where
Oh
just
yeah.
the way the game is, and I say this all the time, since Steph kind of really revolutionized the 3-point shooting and teams really want to shoot it, and your team is as big a culprit as anyone. If the
Hmm.
shots go in, they'll beat you by 30, but if the shots don't go in, they'll lose. And that's kind of what we saw in the NBA so far this year, and that's kind of what happened with Minnesota. Minnesota relies on a lot of those role players hitting their threes, their open threes. That's something they did in game three, and that's something they didn't do in game five. And if we want to talk about game five, Dunny, they scored 9 points in the first quarter. Jaden McDaniels had 6 shots in the first 4 minutes. He missed 3 threes. The Thunder were just giving it to him because they basically said you're just not going to hit everything. And Thunder ran away with that game. It's a make or miss league right now, and Minnesota has relied so heavily on that 3-point shot, especially in the series against Oklahoma City. And unfortunately for them, it only kind of worked in 2 games. It actually worked in game 4. Minnesota, if you look at the stats of game 4, Duddy, they outplayed the Thunder in pretty much every stat. They just couldn't beat them. And I think that right there is the true testament of a great team and a championship caliber team when they can win games when everything's kind of going right for the other team. And to have that win coming off, the heels of a game 3 where they just lost by 40 says all you need about this Oklahoma City Thunder team. And if they are mature enough, despite being the youngest roster in the NBA, if they're mature enough to win an NBA championship. And I think they checked all the boxes in that series.
Yeah. No, 100%. And we can go into this board where we kind of hone in on just OKC, but yeah, it's just crazy, SGA individually and just what the group is doing. Like they, up until this point, they've done everything about as perfectly as you can do, as far as expectations for a successful NBA season, because they had the monster number of wins in the regular season. They've been backing it up all postseason, especially with some of those Memphis wins in the first round. Like they were on the scene immediately, and they haven't really looked back. Shea winning the MVP during all of this, and whether we agree with it or not, which we don't, it still happened. He still has
Right.
the hardware, and now here they are. They just knocked off Ant and the T Wolves pretty easily. Even with that huge victory for the Timberwolves, I just really, really never. Um, I don't know. I just saw what you were describing. Like I think one team got hot, OKC wasn't going to worry or freak out about them not making shots and Minnesota getting out to a huge lead. They almost just kind of let them have that one. They knew they would be able to win out. And that's what they did. So, one last thing to prove here, four more games to win. But OKC's got to feel about as good as you can feel going into the NBA Finals,
Yes.
having the MVP on your team, haven't had any injuries along the way. So, things looking up for them. As for Minnesota, obviously you're hearing all this stuff today about Wendy's already come out and be like, I don't know if they can hold on to guys like Naz Reid, Nikhil Alexander Walker, McDaniels. So it could be changes for the Timberwolves. My biggest thing, and I know you have some words on Ant, is, and I get that he's still young and he's younger than SGA and he's only 23 years old. But I even think the comments after the game where he shot two shots in the half and said that he didn't play poorly. And then just after last night, which I can appreciate the sentiment, I just don't know if it's something you should say in front of the media. But he basically was like, why would I be down on getting bounced from the conference finals 2 years in a row? I'm 23 years old, like, and it's an accomplishment to be here. While I do think there's truth to that, I think he knows what the reporter was getting at, and I think deep down he does feel some sort of failure, falling short the last 2 years, because ultimately every team who's competitive is trying to win the championship every year, and if you come up short of that goal, you didn't. Fine if you don't want to call yourself a failure. I don't think that's what the reporter is trying to say, but I don't know. I guess I just think the comments have been a little weird from a guy who we were told last year that he's the face of the league, and I think it just might be a good reality check for the media. Some of the stars that maybe are unfairly put on a pedestal, but kind of also do it themselves. But I know you have some shit on Ant here, so maybe we can make it a Timberwolves Ant conversation here.
Well, I'll start with positives before I really go in on the Timberwolves. The one positive I will say, Dunny, because I know these role players might switch around. The Timberwolves have Terrence Shannon and Rob Dillingham next year. Like those guys, they actually got some run in the playoffs. Shannon actually looked pretty good in
Looks
some big
great.
spots in the playoffs. And these are two guys that we both loved in college. That they were highlight reels in college, and these are two guys that can really help this young core. The biggest thing with Minnesota my biggest complaint with Anthony Edwards, right, is who's the guy everyone wants to compare Anthony Edwards to is Michael Jordan. And it drives me nuts because Michael Jordan, is kind of a cold-blooded killer where it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter how anyone else was doing on the court. Michael Jordan, like, if he had a chance to try to win the game for the Bulls, he would try to win the game for the Bulls. Like, there was no hesitation. There was nothing. And when I see Anthony Edwards, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've watched a lot of Timberwolves games in the past couple of years, but there are some games, even just parts of games, where he does look like he's that superstar and he can be a face of the league, right? He's got the flashy dunks, the incredible finishes. He can hit the three. He's actually been doing really well from the outside. Despite game 5, he went 1 of 7. But I'm just saying overall, like, he's been improving on his outside shooting. He can drive. He's intense. He's got the personality. And then Dunny, there's just other games or stretches of games where he just stands in the corner. He doesn't touch the ball on like 3-4 possessions in a row. And I'm sorry, but it is inexcusable to have a game 5 must win. And in the first 5 minutes, Jaden McDaniels has 6 shots, and you're not even touching the ball on offense. There's a reason the Thunder are leaving him open, because they want someone else to shoot. Like Julius
Hmm.
Randle, he had his ups and downs this series, but overall this postseason, he impressed me. He played more aggressive. He had some pretty good games. But you're Anthony Edwards. You can't have 3 of the 5 games in the conference finals under 20 points. You can't be outshot by Jaden McDaniels in games in the conference finals. That's inexcusable. And it'd be one thing, right, if the media portrayed him in a way, or we talked about Ant in a way of he's a star, like, but he hasn't reached superstardom yet, right? Like, this guy's a star. You could see the potential. You see everything there, but he's still raw. You still got some things you got to tweak. No, Dunny. Last year, you remember the Timberwolves last year, their run last year, they were trying to say that this guy should have been in MVP talks. They were saying that he was better than Jason Tatum, than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, than Luka Doncic. And then this year, they kind of doubled down before this series and said, he's been better in the playoffs than SGA. Like, he could go toe-to-toe with SGA. Donnie, we saw what the difference was in a mature superstar and a star who just can't really handle the moment consistently. And my biggest thing with Anthony Edwards and my biggest gripe with him, and the reason I kind of dislike him, is I feel like sometimes, and I get it, you got to have confidence, you got to have a little bit of arrogance. I think sometimes he acts like he's Michael Jordan. Or he acts like he's one of these guys who have won championships before and have done it. And maybe it's because that's all he hears in the media. And the media so desperately wants an American player to be the face of the league, right? We understand that. We get it. He's got that big personality. But my thing is, Dunny, I think they're forcing something on us that just hasn't happened yet. And to Anthony Edwards' credit, I kind of agree with him. It's like he's 23. He's been to the conference finals with two kind of different Timberwolves teams, right? You have the similar supporting cast, but he went last year with Karl Anthony Towns. We had a huge trade happen in this offseason, and now he takes another, 1B star in Julius Randle to the conference finals. And I'm not taking anything away from how he played against LA. I thought he played great against LA. And then I know I don't want to discredit the Timberwolves, but the Warriors without Steph Curry is not a playoff team. But he still balled out in that series. So I won't take anything against Anthony Edwards in that series. But, the road to get there wasn't – the second round, not the best. But regardless, it doesn't matter. You play who you're up against, right? No one predicts Steph Curry injury, and no one's going to discredit the Timberwolves going to the conference finals. The record books aren't going to remember that, they beat a injury Warriors team. Who cares? He played great in those two series, but this is the second straight conference finals, because I remember the one last year against Dallas where all the talks about Ant and everything coming into it and just kind of shied away from the moment. And he's 23. He's got time. But the biggest thing is when you have a same guy in the draft class who's doing the complete opposite with Tyrese Halliburton, and how he had all the anti-talk of, overrated, this guy's not great, this guy's kind of a meme, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't shoot that much. Look at Halliburton. He's only scored 6 points in this game. And then the playoffs come, Dunny, and what happens? He turns into an alpha dog. Mm-hmm. And if Anthony Edwards is talked about like that, he should be putting up the numbers Tyrese Halliburton was putting up for the Pacers. And in my opinion, I feel like Anthony Edwards, for some reasons, just gets the biggest pass in the world by the NBA world and the media and everything. And I'm not going to discredit him. 2 conference finals is incredible for what he's done. And he's been a great, exciting player and a star. But we got to pump the brakes on saying he's like a face of the league, top 5 superstar. I went through, there's 15 guys I'd rather have over Anthony Edwards next year. And that'll be a little tease. It'll be a little tease because I won't give the full list, because that might be something down the road in the summer where we rank 1 through 100 of guys we want on our team going into the 2026 NBA season. And Anthony Edwards, a lot of people just think he's top 5. And I'm sorry to say that he's just not right now. Regardless of what you want to believe, you just got to watch. Another thing too, and this is the last thing I will say about the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? It's the last thing I will say. The amount of draft picks they gave for Rudy Gobert, the amount they're paying him, and it's the same story every year. You just can't play the guy in the playoffs in these types of games. And he had that one game against LA because for some reason they thought Gabe Vincent was a good man to bring in when they wanted to play small ball. But Dunny, you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. You've gone to 2 conference finals. You had a different year kind of last year than this year in terms of really good regular season and kind of limped into the playoffs and then got hot. And then this year kind of got hot at the right time, got a nice road in the playoffs, favorable matchups. But what's the next move? You talked about it with you might lose some of these role players. I think they're going to do whatever they can to keep Naz Reid. Mike Conley's going to be gone soon. I know Dillingham and Terrence Shannon, I think, will have expanded roles next year, which would be huge for them. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Alexander Walker. But man, I look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't think Gobert, Randall, and Anthony Edwards is a good enough top three to win a championship. I don't really know what they do next because I think they got a favorable run in the West this year, and I think the West is going to be better next year, or healthier, I should say. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to discredit them because I think everyone knew they were going to lose to the Thunder. Great job, but where do you go from?
Yeah, I definitely think the T Wolves are in a tougher spot than I think people realize because I agree with you. I think both things are true that you said. Actually, I think the West is going to get better and healthier. Um, because you have Cooper Flag coming to the West now. Giannis, could end up anywhere, but I think a lot of West teams are interested. You have Wemby and the Spurs who are going to upgrade. Like we didn't even really get to see Wemby and Fox together.
No,
Oh, they also have the number two pick, by the way. So,
could
and
trade it.
then
Could trade that too to get a
yeah,
big name. Yeah.
exactly. So that ball's kind of in their court there. You have the Lakers another year with Luca. Like I expect that team to be better. Are they going to move to contenders next year? Maybe, but it's the Lakers. Their moves will be made. They're going to improve this roster regardless if, LeBron's still there and doesn't take a pay cut. Moves will be made. So all that to say, I agree. I think the West will be better, and I do think the Timberwolves are in a difficult spot. Them being here now and seeing them get to two Western Conference Finals before Ant's 24 is amazing for Ant in their future, but it's also like, okay, if you didn't get over the hump this year, you didn't beat OKC. I agree with you. I don't think they'll beat OKC or whoever it is next year with that trio. And you kind of wonder, maybe they should have traded Gobert last year instead of Towns. Again, we'll never know, but I think seemingly Gobert is a guy who's harder and harder to trade as he gets older here because he's not a guy who has a whole bunch of skill sets. He's really just a rebounder and a defender and a guy who can play above the rim. But, as a player like that who gets older and is already kind of proven that he's unplayable in some playoff spots, it's difficult. And it's difficult to make roster moves and he gets paid a bunch of money. So, making a deal like that work is difficult within itself. And then you have Randall, who really impressed this year, who we talked
Yep.
about, but he has a track record of not being the best playoff performer. So you don't really know what you're going to get year to year. And I actually think if they move on from Connolly or if Connolly retires, I think that's going to be a bigger deal for Ant than people realize. And I think he'd be up for the challenge to be the ball handler. But I talked about this a little bit with Jake last week. Like, I think it goes unnoticed how much Connolly handles the
Mhm.
point guard duties because I know Ant's a big usage guy and he's not afraid to have the ball in his hands. But as far as bringing the ball up the court and you are playing a team like OKC and getting attacked and getting that pressure, Connolly was a guy who relieved Ant of that duty a lot. And so who knows? Maybe it's Dillingham, maybe it's Shannon who takes over, maybe they bring in another veteran guard. But yeah, I think it's weird for a team that's had so much success the last couple of years. This is just how quickly the NBA changes, and you never know if you're going to get back to that spot. So
Right.
I think the Timberwolves have some work to do, and I think Ant has some work to do. And to go back to what we started talking about with the media and his comments, I just think the media and Ant himself kind of plays both sides of the coin a little bit, where we're making excuses for him, but we're also pushing him to this area that he
Hmm.
definitely isn't yet. And I think he's almost falling into that a little bit because you're right. I don't blame his quotes, and I honestly think there's some merit and some truth to that. It's just tough to hear a guy say that who we are saying is a top
Right.
five guy, or who we are saying could be the face of the league. You don't want to hear that from a guy of that caliber. So we'll see. We'll see with the Timberwolves. I don't know. I think they probably just trust in their guy, and I don't think it's going to look too different. I do think they have roster changes to make, but I wouldn't say that the Timberwolves are going to be a splash team either.
No, I think you're right there. Where I think the Timberwolves are going to be good enough to just kind of hang around, right? And I think everything kind of fell right for them this year to get back to the Western Conference Finals. But I think you're right in a sense, Dunny, where the West is probably going to get better next year, and you can't just run it just back and expect that you're just going to get back, even though Ant's 23. Because we say it all the time, right? When the superstar's young, you feel like the team's only going to get better. And sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes, guys come in different timelines, and it just doesn't really line up correctly. However, Dunny, the team that played the Minnesota Timberwolves, think their timeline could have lined up better than anything else. And this is a team where, they're going to the NBA Finals. They got the young core. And it's crazy that I'm going to say this, but we're talking about a 68-win Thunder team that's going to the NBA Finals, that has that young big three that every team would dream of having right now. And this might be the worst Thunder team we see in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel right now? Like, for me personally, right, because I don't have a horse in the race in these playoffs right now. And I don't hate like the dynasty, culture in the NBA. Those Spurs teams were fun. I was never a Spurs fan, but I loved their style of basketball. Steph Curry was always one of my favorite players, so I had nothing against the Warriors, even when they picked up KD as well, because I loved KD as well. So I don't really care. I know there's a lot of people who just don't like dynasties, and right now we're at that rare point where everyone loves OKC, right? Because they're the small market team. They're the kind of the fun team, and they're going to become a dynasty. And the only, I guess, right now, discourse you get for OKC is some people don't like the style SGA plays at, which I get it. I get the memes and everything, especially because I'm on Mavs Twitter all the time, and nobody hates SGA more than Mavs fans. I get the free throws and the foul baiting. First off, he might be the best foul baiter we've seen since James Harden. Like, he's just elite at it, and that is to some degree a skill. And secondly, too, there's a lot of plays he makes where he doesn't, get fouled and he still finishes. Like, he's a great player. I think right now there's a clear top 4 players in the NBA. I think it's Giannis, Jokic, SGA, and Luka. I think that's the clear 4. You can rank them however you want to rank them. I don't really care. I think Jokic has to be 1, but other than that, I don't really care. However, to SGA's credit, like, I get it. He gets a lot of free throws. He gets fouled a lot. He gets fouled, but he has become so elite at baiting fouls. But not only that, man, like, he's just a good basketball player. In terms of scoring, in terms of passing, I think you remember the one play he had where he was lying on the ground and he made the pass through his legs to the wide open 3 to Jalen Williams. I mean, this guy has really improved his game. The trade to get SGA will go down as one of the worst trades in NBA history, which is hilarious because Paul George was involved. And we're talking about Paul George as a multiple-time All-Star, right? And a guy who has been one of the better players of the past, I guess the 2010s, we would say, right? But, man, Donnie, you look at this Oklahoma City Thunder team, and we're talking about a team that's very good chance of getting their first championship. And now it's the question of, if they can get it this year, how many can this core get? Because Chet's only going to get better. Jalen Williams, who surprised us as a rookie, because, he thought he'd be okay, didn't think he'd be that good right away, has made the leap in both years after, Dunny. He somehow made 2 leaps after being one of those surprising rookies. And then you got SGA, who is coming off an MVP season, his best statistical season. And we talk about these 3 guys, all 3 of them, Donnie, not only are they all young or 26 or younger, they're all elite defensively. And I don't really care what the rest of the role players look on the Thunder right now. Their oldest player is Alex Caruso. Who cares? Like, who cares? It does not matter. When you have that young core and the way they've been playing, it's a scary sight. And I think the biggest thing for me, these playoffs, is they're playing with maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's terrifying for a team where Chet's technically in his third year, but really 2 years because of the injury. Jalen Williams in his third year in the same draft class, by the way. Which shout out the Thunder. I mean,
Sam Presti knows what
Sam
he's fucking
Presti
doing.
can do no wrong. He's got multiple picks in this draft, multiple picks in next draft. Like, can do no wrong. But man, Donnie, I want the Pacers to win. I think I'd probably root for the Thunder over the Knicks, but it could go either way. But regardless, Dunny, I think we're watching the start of a dynasty, and I don't think a lot of NBA fans are really ready for how good this Thunder team's going to be. Not just this year, but the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's crazy too because you're talking about the roster and just like looking at the makeup and saying that Caruso is the oldest guy on the team. It's crazy because they can also just afford to lose people this offseason if they really needed to. Like a guy like Lou Dort would probably be the first one to go with this group just because I think he has trade value. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of teams would like him. And I think they can just afford to do that because, even through their first eight rotation guys, you don't even really need more than that for the playoffs. Like we saw, that was in the Denver series. Kenrich Williams got in the game,
Yeah.
and he fucking had a few minutes where he was on fire. And they have guys like Isaiah Joe,
Cason
um,
Wallace, one of my
Ka-
favorites.
Aaron Wiggins. Like they just have these guys on deck, and everyone just seems ready to go. It's crazy, and they're still a ways away from being in the trouble that teams like the Celtics are in, where they have to pay all these guys
Yeah.
and they have to make it work. Like they're not there yet. So if they could take advantage of this year and keep taking control of the West, they're in a very, very, very good spot. And yeah, you got to give it up to Sam Presti because it's fucking insane that they have two first round picks this year. They have multiple seconds this year, I believe, as well. And you mentioned it; they have picks to come too. So I don't know. Like, what else can you say about the Oklahoma City Thunder at this point? Last year, before the season started, you said that they were ahead of schedule, and they ripped up the schedule. They're here now,
Yeah.
um, and the rest of the league's going to have to deal with it. So I'm with you too. Like, of course, watching the Thunder games can be brutal when Shea's doing the foul thing. But like you mentioned the guy me and Jake talked about a little last week too. Like this is what Harden did when he was in Houston. And I think what we did as collective NBA fans is we kind of just came to terms that hey, this guy's a fucking awesome scorer. He's a great basketball player, and he found a unique advantage in the game. And it's not anyone else's fault that he's the best at it.
And
And
what's
that's what he's
funny
doing right now.
funny about that with Harden, dude, right? Is with James Harden, people complained about it all the time when he was on the Rockets, complained about it. And now I'm sure you're on online as much as I am, Donny. So many people are like, "Oh, you forget about prime James Harden," and they're going back and showing his highlights and everything,
Yeah.
and how guys regarded him, and they're like, "Oh, he scored averaged 40 over a 15 game span, and all this," and it's hilarious, right? Because I feel like that's the exact same kind of conversations we're going to have about SGA, where the people who aren't appreciating him right now, about 5 years down the road, are going to go back and look at this Thunder team. They're like, SGA, yeah, like, look at what this guy did on a 68-win Thunder team. Like, it's one of those things where I think sometimes people just don't kind of realize it when they're right there. And then after the fact, you kind of look back on it. I did it with LeBron James. I was so anti-LeBron James. And as I
Yeah.
got older, I kind of look back and like, man, that guy was special talent with carrying those Cavs teams the way he did. But I think you're right, Dunny, where you talk about it, where this core three of Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and SGA, barring like a blockbuster trade, they're not going to break it up. And they have so much depth to these guys. Like, it's like you said, Isaiah Joe could be the guy who pops up one night. Maybe Kenrich Williams. Maybe it is Cason Wallace. And that's the beauty of this Thunder team, because those guys aren't good enough to get to the point where they're going to need the money like the Celtics have to pay some of their guys or some other teams, right? But at the same time, they are good enough to be those kind of perfect role guys. And they're all great on defense. And they play as a team. They have the best chemistry we've seen in a while. But we talked about it with the multiple picks and how Sam Presti is and how he's always thinking about 10 steps ahead. This is something where these guys can be interchangeable. You can switch up these role players. You can make a couple splashes, maybe bring in a vet here or there, or just, get a couple guys in the draft and see how they develop or play them for a few years. And then it's like, all right, they probably need a little bit more money. We'll switch it up again because they have the hardest part figured out. They got the core three figured out. Those are the only three guys you really need to pay. Chat, Jalen, and SGA. And I'm very much against, any NBA trade rumors that include Jalen or Chet for the Thunder to get like a big name, like a
Makes no
KD or a
sense.
Giannis. Makes no sense to me because you figured the hardest part out, and I don't think Presti would ever do that. But in my mind, it's like you have what every team wants, right? And that's three young players that have the chemistry that can do everything. All three can shoot from the outside. All three can defend the outside. All three can defend the interior. All three, to Chet's degree, not as good of a passer as Jalen Williams or at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but he doesn't need to be when he's 7'1" and has the
And
wingspan.
Hartenstein's great.
And Hartenstein's great. And Hartenstein's a great pass for a big two, right? But that's the thing. Hartenstein's a perfect example of, all right, he'll be there a couple of years, and then we'll see, right? And then you'll move guys around. But that's the beauty of this Thunder team, is that right now we're looking at this roster, and it could look completely different 2 years from now, and they'll still be in the same place, going to an NBA Finals or being one of the teams favored to go. And that's what's terrifying about this team. And that's kind of what made me a year removed from the Mavs Thunder kind of rivalry of the MVP race last year, which Luka still should have won. He averaged 32, 9, and 9. I don't want to hear about it. I'm tired of arguing it. But regardless, right? And then having the playoff series where PJ Washington, the mayor of Oklahoma City, and all of that, like, with that rivalry a year behind me, to be able to just watch the Thunder this year and kind of appreciate them, man, they're fun. They're a fun team. They're a young team, and they'll run. And I think my favorite thing about the Thunder is that everyone looks at this team and how they can score and their options. We just kind of forget that I think they have, like, out of the top 15 efficient defenders, I think they had 6 in the top 15, which, by the way, anyone there, 5 play on the court at the same time.
Yeah.
So the fact that you could have like 6, I think 4 were in the top 10, 6 in the top 15, something ridiculous like that. But the fact that they can just, it's snap of a fingers, Dunny, just be like, all right, we're going to shut you down. You're just not going to score for 5 minutes. It's incredible to watch. And this Thunder team, regardless if they play the Knicks or regardless if they play the Pacers, I think is should be heavily favored to win the finals. And B, man, it's going to be, they can match up either way. Knicks want to play them in a defensive, grind them out. Sure, they'll do that. Pacers want to run up and down the court. Donnie, I think there's one team that can run with the Indiana Pacers, and it might be the team waiting for them in the NBA Finals right now.
Yeah, it's a scary group, man, and it's a really good point too because I'm with you. I don't know. I don't understand any of the rumors or trade ideas where they're going out and getting another, top 15, top 20 player, whatever it might be, or even the Giannis rumors. Like, it just doesn't make sense because look at the Celtics team from last year and look at this OKC team from this year. I know they haven't done it yet, but they are my pick to win the finals, regardless of who comes out of the East. And like, just look at it. We talked about it all last year with the Celtics. It's 5 guys they put out there, all above average defenders, all above average shooters, and they all buy in and play the same style of basketball.
Yeah.
And that's just where the league seems to be going. We could see a drastic change next year, but I don't think we will see a change for the next, maybe even decade. Like, I think this is where the league's going. I think you need 5 guys who can play great together and have, 1, maybe 2 alpha dogs, and then the rest just kind of have to be bought in, and it's up to management and coaching to make sure you have the right guys around that core. But it's not really the big 3 era anymore, or the number 1 superstar is going to get it done. we're kind of falling out of that style of NBA, and I think it will probably come back at some point. But with the second apron and how hard it is to field teams now, I think it's just all about putting together that main unit or that
Hmm.
top like six guys and making sure everyone is kind of on the same page and can do a little bit of everything. That's the way the NBA is going, and OKC has done that to a T. Like they've almost done it perfectly. And like we mentioned, time and time again, they're young and they have assets and they haven't had to pay anyone yet. So, I mean, OKC fans, I know again you haven't done anything yet, so make sure you get those four more wins. But it looks so damn good for them. And SGA, I kind of mentioned it already, but like if he gets the championship done too, like this is he's putting himself in an elite category. MVP, huge win total in the regular season, and then winning the finals
I
would be
I
spectacular.
think the only two players who had more wins going into an NBA Finals in a season besides SGA was Steph Curry and Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that's insane.
For those two, like, and so it's wild, and that's the thing, Donnie. Right? I feel like because of his style a little bit, because of how many free throws he shoots, a lot of people aren't really considering that this is going to potentially be an all-time great season. When you look at it, like conference finals, NBA finals, he wins the MVP, 68 win regular season. Like it's one of those things we're not going to appreciate till probably 4 or 5 years down the road, especially if the Thunder win it this year. And I also too think they'll win it as well. I'll be rooting for the Pacers, just because I love that team, and we'll talk about them very soon. But I think you're right, Dunny, where it's like the Thunder have found a way in today's NBA to kind of craft the perfect team, right? Where they can play multiple different lineups. They have their core three, like you said, but it's not like that true big three like era where you have these three guys all paying a max contract, and then you have role players which you don't really know what to do with them. And it's like, all right, we're playing the hot hand here. The Thunder kind of all have their role, and you know who the core three are. But like you said, any given night, one of these guys could come off the bench and just get scorching hot for 4 or 5 minutes. And the other NBA teams just don't have the luxury of this. And I think the theme we've kind of seen, especially if the Pacers win either tonight or win any of the next three games and get to the NBA Finals, for the first time, I'd have to look back, but the first time it feels like it forever, not really forever, but really probably the last 10, 15 years, depth is the reason the teams are
Yeah.
making the NBA Finals, not a shrunk 6, 7 man lineup. Because I think I was the one who said it at the start of this year, where I was like, in the playoffs, your rosters kind of shrink. You're only really playing 7, 8 man rotations. You need that true superstar to take over. Now, Indiana and Oklahoma City both have a true superstar. Don't get that confused. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like I said, he's clear top four best player in the NBA. And Tyrese Halliburton's very high on my list. And I'm very, very happy for how well he's playing with all the criticism he's gotten this year. But those guys are both true superstars. But the
Oh,
difference between...
Stephen A. Smith said Tyrese isn't.
Oh, trust me, I've seen all that. We'll get to that. The wildest thing. Don't worry. The Morris twins are talking about how he's not a superstar. It's just absurd, absolutely absurd. But regardless, Dunny, right? I think you are sane enough to agree that Tyrese Halliburton's a true superstar,
Yes.
especially at the most important position in basketball, right? You have those guys, but if you look at the Thunder roster and you look at the Pacers roster, there's so much more depth on these rosters than teams that have gone to the finals or championship teams that we've seen in so long. And it really almost feels like we're turning the page to a kind of a different era of basketball now where everyone has to do everything. No longer are you going to have like your Shaq style bigs, right? No longer, are you going to have guys that just simply are just 3-point shooters like a Duncan Robinson, can't do anything else. The Thunder and Pacers are proven, hey, you want to compete in this league, you want to be on a legitimate, championship caliber team, you got to defend, You got to shoot from the outside. You got to be able to handle the ball a little bit. You don't have to be a true ball handler, but you know what I mean. You got to be able to create your own shot or drive with the ball. And you got to be able to be a team player. You got to be able to pass. You got to be able to switch. You got to be able to guard, the point guard coming down on the fast break. But at the same time, too, you got to be able to hold your own in the paint when a big man's trying to back you down. And both those teams have perfected that this year. And I really feel like because of the Oklahoma City Thunder doing it to that degree and how young their core is and everything, that we're kind of seeing a new dynasty almost create this new era of basketball. And as I say all the time, as a non-biased basketball fan, it's a joy to watch.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And yeah, Tyrese is here. We should probably just fucking talk about the other side now.
You might as well.
Um, right. Yeah. So, in case you guys missed it, Tyrese Halliburton, I honestly think obviously we had those years of Steph, but like that game he had the other night when he had 32, 12, and 15, I believe it was, zero turnovers,
Mm-hmm.
four steals. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the best guard playoff games I can remember watching. Um,
Might be the best. No turnovers.
right.
It
And the
might be the
four
best. And
steals.
the
It's
timely
like,
shots. And the timely
yeah.
shots, too.
And you could see it happening early too, which was the best part because, obviously the ending stat line was amazing, but he had 29 and 9 at the half. Like he
But
was
he
he
almost
was
had a
already,
triple double.
yeah.
In the first
And it,
quarter, he was like 15, 6, and 6.
yeah, and I'm not even trying to make this about my own bet, but I had a Miles Turner points and rebounds bet that night, and I was paying so closely attention to Halliburton because he was getting every fucking rebound in that
He
first half.
was.
So it was like, I couldn't even be mad about my small player prop bet that I had because Halliburton's performance was just so insane. All the clutch shots that come along with it really just kind of holding the keys to that Pacers offense because there isn't too many true point guards in the NBA
Right.
anymore. And Tyrese is definitely one of those guys. I mean, he's a guy who can get 10 assists in his sleep. And the Pacers are just so good. And I love that you bring up the depth of both these teams because we have fucking Tony Bradley and Ben Shepherd getting minutes for this Pacers team. And they're up 3-1 and, presumably going to the NBA Finals. I think they're going to get it done against the Knicks. And yeah, it's just awesome to see Tyrese Halliburton do this, especially, a month after he was voted the most overrated player by his peers and
Mm-hmm.
just the discourse we've had
Which it
about
was
this
a
guy.
fraction of his peers, right? It wasn't the whole
Right.
league. There were only a handful of guys that did the survey. I think it was 90 total guys answered the survey. So really only was like 15 guys, probably the
Yeah.
whole Knicks roster.
Yeah, right. Um,
Paying for it now.
right.
But
But
you're
but
right.
it's just great, man. It's great to see and even, dating back to the Kings trade. I think it was Rob Lowe who said it, but he was like, for years we kind of lied to ourselves and was like, oh, win. It's the rare win-win trade. The Kings really made out. They got a guy like Sabonis. Like we can stop that now, right? Like the Pacers won this fucking deal.
And I like
Look,
Sabonis.
yeah, he's great.
He's fine. He's
He's not
Tyrese
he's not a
Halliburton's a
one though.
superstar. Tyrese
No.
Halliburton's a one. He's a superstar in these playoffs. He's proved it.
Yeah.
Regardless if they beat OKC or not. He's
Oh
proved it.
yeah. No, that's
10,
solidified.
10 of 11 on shots within what? One possession with the final 2 minutes this year? Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
And it's cool you talked about the scoring variance and some of the blowouts we've seen in these playoffs. Like the Pacers comeback is a direct, variable of that as well. Like the scoring and the scoring variance in the NBA, like those Pacers comebacks is a glaring example of that too. It's not just all about the blowout wins. It's about, being down 15 with a minute and a half left and still figuring out a way to fucking win the game. So these Pacers don't die. I think Rick Carlisle is a guy who deserves a lot of credit too. He's been around the game forever, and he's coached a lot of different teams and different stars, and still figures out a way to get it done. So this Pacers group is rolling. They're up 3-1. We have game five tonight. We talked about a little before the pod, but you like the Knicks tonight.
Yeah, I do. And the biggest thing, like I told you, as much as I love the Pacers and Halliburton, how well everyone's kind of been playing on the Pacers besides him. Donnie, we at some point we got to talk about your guy Aaron Naismith and what he's been able to do. But I like the Knicks mainly because this series has been close in pretty much every game. You talked about the big comeback they had in game one, right? Game two was another one where the Knicks had a big lead and they came back. And then you have game three where the Knicks win, but that game's kind of always close. And then you got last night where, yeah, the Pacers kind of had it, right? But it was never like completely out of the question that that they were going to run away and blow out the Knicks here. So I think this has been a competitive series in all four games. And a couple bounces go differently. We might be talking about this series completely differently. We might be in a situation where we're like, oh, the Knicks have a chance to close it out at the Garden tonight. Like, that's how close the series has been, despite the Pacers being up 3-1. I just think back against your wall in the Garden, the Knicks, they made more adjustments than I've ever seen Tibbs make in his entire life in game three to get that win. And it took what we talked about, one of the greatest postseason performances I think we've ever seen by Tyrese Halliburton in game four to win for the Pacers there. Pascal's been playing great too. 55% from the field, 45% from three,
He's been
averaging
awesome.
20 in the playoffs. Like, the whole team's been awesome, but yet the Knicks are hanging in the games. I just feel like they get this one here. And I think Indiana wins it in 6. It's kind of the classic. I forget what series we were talking about last. I can't remember what it was in the semifinals, but it was like, don't let it get to 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're going to have the pressure. I just feel like the Knicks are going to get this to game 6. +2. I'm gonna take the non-biased hat off real quick. Non-biased hat's coming off. I want to see this go as many games as possible. I just want to see. Give me 82 games of Knicks Pacers next year.
Yeah.
I will sign up for that right now. Like, this series has just been so exciting. I love the players on both teams. I love the personalities. I know you don't like the Knicks, Dunny, but we're talking about two of the most passionate and loyal fan bases in the sport. Like, they would die for these players. And these players, too, you can tell how much, these players care and the chemistry of both these teams. One guy that I've loved seeing is just the way Obi Toppin's been playing against his former team, where it didn't really quite work out for him. Aaron Naismith, I can't say enough good things about this guy. I didn't even think he was going to play in game 4. And then he comes in, hits his first 2 threes. I mean, the way he's been playing on offense and defense too, that's one thing underrated about the Pacers is how fast they play, how many points they score. You don't realize the intensity these guys bring on the defensive side. I'm glad you brought up Halliburton had 4 steals in his pretty much near perfect game in game 4. So these are just two teams that I love to see. Josh Hart, right? He gets coming off the bench, and then he probably played one of his better games coming off the bench. Like, that's just the kind of guy that'll do any assignment you want. Cat had the takeover game when Brunson was in foul trouble. Right. Just so many guys stepping up, and this is a series where I really just think it's like when your back's against the wall, I think the Knicks are going to do what they need to win tonight. Man, I love this series. I can't get enough of this series. This series is made up for the, 50% of bad series in the NBA playoffs, these playoffs. But, man, dude, I don't want this series to end tonight. I really don't. I think the Knicks are going to take it, and then I think Pacers in 6 because Halliburton's possessed right now. And I know it's recency bias, but I don't really call it recency bias because I've been a big Halliburton guy. The Pacers are kind of my meme team after, the Mavs. I just loved watching this team. They were my league pass team, and now I just seem like they keep getting all my favorite guys, like role players that I want to watch. You talked about it, Ben Shepherd. Shout out Belmont. Ben Shepherd,
He's getting in there.
absolute dog, getting some minutes in. He can shoot. He can play some defense. Nemhard, another one of my favorites. Miles Turner, one of the most underrated players in league history. He's been in trade talks since his career. For his entirety of his career, he just does what he needs to do. He did get bullied by Cat a little bit, but give him a pass. But yeah, man, I think Knicks win tonight, but I'm not talking myself out of this Pacers team to go to the NBA Finals. They're just like the Thunder in my mind. I think they give the Thunder a series. I do, but taking the
Yeah,
Knicks.
tonight's weird for me. I don't know why. I just kind of have a um, gut feeling about the Pacers tonight. I think it just might be like going back to MSG and like I don't know. In these types of games where like it seems like not just like the Knicks fan base, but NBA and basketball fans as a whole are just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it's going to be at the Mecca, New York.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
Brunson's due. Like sometimes those games I'm just like, but maybe the Pacers just play the ultimate asshole here and just kind of send them home early. Also, I
Yeah,
am seeing now that he's playing, but Carl Anthony Towns was a game time decision for this
he was
game at
he
one
was gonna
point
play.
today.
He was gonna play.
So I just apparently TNT just announced that he is going to play. So there was that factor too. But yeah, I mean, I think this is probably going to go like all the other games in the series. Like I think it's going to be really close. I think at halftime we're probably going to have an idea who we think's going to win, and then by the time it's midway through the third quarter, we're going to have no idea again.
Pretty much.
So I just have a weird feeling about the Pacers. Like I wish I had more stats to give people, but this isn't really that kind of series. Uh,
No,
it's it's you kind of got to watch all four quarters to have an idea, and even those last 2 minutes, you better be fucking tuned in because something crazy is probably going to happen.
I got two questions for you, Donnie.
Hit me
Two
with it.
questions. The first one: at any point during this game, will a team be down by 20 or more?
Hmm.
This has been the series of comebacks, man.
Yeah, this one I don't think so.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think this one's going to be tight.
Okay. And then my second one is who's going to lead the Pacers in scoring tonight?
Mm, Pascal.
Pascal. Yeah, it's Pascal
Yeah,
tonight. Okay. Okay.
he's been awesome, man. As
He
someone,
has. Yeah, it's been overshadowed by how good Halliburton has been. But man, Pascal's been great, and he's another guy too, Dunny, because he was overshadowed by Kawhi for
yeah,
Toronto. Dude, he just gets it done in the playoffs. Look at Pascal's stats in the playoffs.
yeah,
This guy just
he's really
delivers.
solid. He's really, really solid. And even outside of that explosion game where I think he had 39,
Mm-hmm.
like it's every other game too. It's he's just so good and like decisive. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's things that good NBA players don't really get talked about enough is like if you're just a decisive scorer, like it's one thing to be a scorer and you have the
Yeah.
talent, but if you know what you're doing with the basketball, especially when you aren't the main guy, because you talked about it, he was second fiddle to Kawhi, and obviously he's not like a huge usage guy for this Pacers team. Like people could argue he's just as skilled as Tyrese, but I think everyone knows Tyrese is the better player. But when he gets the rock, he knows what he's doing with it. And there's so many guys on the Knicks that are smaller than him that end up on him. And he's just like, well, I'm not going to mess around with this thing. I'm going to get the ball and I'm going to go to the hole.
Yep.
And when he's open, he's going to shoot it. And he's a good shooter. And like you mentioned, he's just a playoff riser. And I don't know if it's that people don't want to accept that about Pascal or just don't really pay attention because it's Pascal Siakam. But yeah, he's great. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the lead guy tonight. I'm going to hit you with a question now. This is kind of an overarching Tyrese question. Going into next year, regardless of whatever happens, Tyrese Halliburton, how many guards in the NBA are you taking over him?
Guards are like point guard, true point guards.
I think it's tough because, like we just talked about, like there really
Yeah.
isn't too many true point guards. So, like, I'm okay. Like anyone who, kind of plays that guard position.
I think Luca and Shea are obvious too.
Hmm.
Um,
Depending how this series goes, are you taking Brunson or Reese,
but
or would
that's
you
that's
argue?
the thing. if you were talking to me before the playoffs, I would have said Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
I think I still say Jalen Brunson. There's something
Okay.
about Jalen Brunson where, dude, I mean, he can get you 40 any night, and he's 6'2", but he plays like he's 6'8". And I
Hmm.
really like that with Jalen Brunson. I also think too, Halliburton's been playing unbelievable. I think there is stretches in the season, and it happened this year too, where he just kind of goes away from aggressive scoring, and maybe he is just kind of that playoff guy, right, and goes for it. But he kind of goes away a little bit. I'm trying to think if there's any other than that. I take him over Booker. I take him over Fox. I take him over
Steph at
Anthony
this point.
Edwards. What?
I think he's one more year. You got to roll a Steph, right? I think I'd still take Steph.
I think I take Steph. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I take Steph. And then the one that I really might debate midway through next year would be like Cade Cunningham.
Yeah. No, I
What
like
he
that.
was able to do with that team around him, that Detroit
I,
Pistons team, was
yeah,
so
he's at least got
impressive.
to be in the conversation.
I think I take Halliburton over Donovan Mitchell. I think I do.
It's a good thing Jake's on here.
I think I do, Donnie. I think Jake might agree too at this point. With
Yeah.
his frustrations from these playoffs, I think I take Halliburton over Donovan
You
Mitchell.
take it Tyrese over Ant?
Yeah, I am. I am. I
Wow.
I am. There's
I don't think it's that
there
great. Like it's just like holy
there's
shit. But
something about
that's why I wanted to do this because like this.
playmaking guards always get the bump up for me. Can you make your teammates better? And I think Tyrese Halliburton is in that camp where he makes his teammates better around him. I don't think Ant's there yet. I just think Ant has a really good team around him. But I don't think he makes the guys around him better, if that makes sense, right? I just think, he's Jaden McDaniels, Nas Reed, Alexander Walker, really, really, really good role players. Really good. Right? I feel disrespectful calling Nas Reed a role player. It's kind of what he is, right?
Yeah, no, he
Um,
is.
I just look at guys like Naismith, Nemhard, Toppin. Like they aren't the same guys when Halliburton's not on the court. They aren't.
Yeah.
Like he just makes those guys around him better. Luka makes guys around him better. Shea has gotten to that point. Like I said, OKC has really, really good core around him. But man, dude, Shea has really taken that step these past couple years, making the guys around him better. And I think Brunson does too. I really do. I truly believe so. I really have a soft spot for the kind of the playmaking guards that make guys around him better. And I think Cade is in that camp. That's why I would put Cade right there with Halliburton. I think you got to go Luka, Shea, Steph, no doubt, those three. Brunson, you can debate. I wouldn't be mad if someone said Halliburton over Brunson. I think I still go Brunson, but I think you can debate it. And then I think Cade Halliburton's as close as you're going to get. Um, I think people just kind of forget with Cade because he's not as flashy either of how efficient he is and what he was able to do with that Pistons team around him. And that's where I just give those guys the edge over a guy like Anthony Edwards, who's flashier. But in my mind, I'm just like, I think these guys make guys better around him. So I think I would give you three guards for sure. And then we'll see how these playoffs go, Duddy. He might be four. He might be
Yeah.
four.
So it's a crazy exercise, but that's kind of why I want to do this because like I don't think my number earlier in the day when I did this with myself was too different. And other guys I was thinking of that we didn't mention, like it helps that he sent him home this year, but like I think he passed Dame this year.
Yeah, easily.
Um, and it's like tough because like all like, and I think this is a testament to the true guard, true point guard thing. Is like all the guys that you kind of want to put in the conversation are on the older side too. So like he
Healthy
has the
Kyrie or Halliburton?
ooh
I just thought
that's
of
a
that one. Healthy
yeah, that's a
Kyrie or
tough
Hallie?
one.
I know Kyrie's dealing with the injury right now. We don't know when he'll be back, and it's who knows what the player he'll be when he's back. But that's one where it's like, is Halliburton like? Would you rather have him at this point? We
I
also got
think
to
I'd rather
remember
have
too. He's
Halliburton.
6'5".
Yeah,
Halliburton's 6'5". He's not a small guard. He plays sometimes like a small guard, and that awkward shooting motion leads you to believe he's a little smart. This guy's 6'5", Dunny. Six
Yeah, and
five,
he's got a
strong.
crazy wingspan too.
Mm-hmm. You got to take that
Yeah,
into account too.
I think the only one I disagree with you on, and I see the vision for sure. I think I'm still taking Ant at this moment.
Over Hallie,
Yeah,
I can't do it. I
two
just,
years younger.
yeah.
I think I completely agree with you. Like Ant, like I'd rather have the playmaking ability that Tyrese has. I think that will come for Ant, but I think you're right that Tyrese is just leaps and bounds
Mm-hmm.
as far as making the guys around him better. But yeah, I mean it's crazy, right? Like we're under 10 pretty easily here as
Oh
far
yeah.
as
I mean, it's
guards we take over this
five, yeah,
guy.
right around 5 or 6, regardless how
Yeah.
you think. And I think that's the thing that's so impressive about Tyrese Halliburton, right? Is he was kind of, I don't want to say an afterthought when he was drafted, but he was drafted by the Kings when De'Aaron Fox was still there. So like, all right, depth guard, and he played at Iowa State, so it's not everyone's eyes are on Iowa State. Um, and then they trade him for Sabonis. And I remember you and I kind of had the same thought process because they also had Davion Mitchell at the same time, the Sacramento Kings
Yeah.
did. And we were like, man, maybe
And
they just felt
Fox.
like the guards were too crowded. And they were like, we have a chance to get a really good, big man for Halliburton. We still have our guard depth with Davion Mitchell and, De'Aaron Fox. And they chose Fox over Halliburton and figured Halliburton would give him more trade value. And now Mitchell and Fox aren't even on the Kings, so we're not even going to talk about what the Kings are doing. But regardless, Dunny, when that trade happened, the thought process was like, all right, in our heads, NBA fans' heads, I think we are like, all right, they chose Fox over Halliburton. Despite, the age difference, they chose Fox. And now I don't think it's debatable. Halliburton's clears Fox.
Oh
Clears
yeah.
him. Clears him. He also clears the guy he was traded for with Sabonis, and I like both Fox and Sabonis, but it's crazy to go back in that and be like, the Kings got gifted this guy, and they traded him, only to trade Fox away a few years later.
Yeah, and like like Sabonis might not be a part of this team
Who knows what the
in a
Kings?
year
The
or
Kings might
two.
just,
Like
yeah, who knows what they're doing?
they might have to blow it up. So yeah, it's crazy. I'm just selfishly thinking of the Celtics at per always right now, but obviously we're considering Brown a forward because
I,
I
I
would
would
take
take Halliburton
JB.
over Brown. I would.
Really?
I would. I'd take Halliburton over Brown.
Ooh.
I don't think it's that spicy, because
Oh, I get it.
I think same kind of deal with Anthony Edwards. I put Jaylen Brown kind of where I put Anthony Edwards, where he's a guy who could take over any game. He's flashy for sure, right? And I think Brown's a better defender than Anthony Edwards, but the playmaking that Tyrese Halliburton has, I don't think, and you
Can't
can
teach
correct me
that.
if I'm wrong, and I know Jaylen Brown has had his big games, but I don't think yet, and mainly because Tatum's also there as well, I don't think yet Jaylen Brown is a guy who makes the guys around him better. He can from
Yeah, I
a
think he
game.
did in that game five.
He did. He did where he had 14 assists or something in that
Yeah,
game.
the 12.
Um, he can, but not to the consistency that Halliburton does. And that's where I will always give the edge, and I always have point guard bias to those kind of playmaking guards, where Tyrese Halliburton and you could like, even though Luka averages 30, it's the same thing with Luka. Like his first option is I'm going to try to get my teammate a wide open look.
Yep.
That's the mindset. And then it's like, all right, I can take over. I know when I'm hot, when I want to go. And you saw it in the Milwaukee series. You saw it in the Cleveland series. You seeing it in the Knicks series, Dunny, where at the start of games, Tyrese Halliburton feels out the game a little bit, right? He feels out the game a little bit. Maybe he'll only have 2 shots, 4 or 5 assists. And then there will be a stretch where he's like, you'll look at the bottom line and be like, Tyrese Halliburton scored the Pacers' last 12 points. You go, what? Wait, what do you
Yeah.
mean? And then he's dancing at the end of the game, getting his isolations. I mean, that's where I put Halliburton over these guys like an Anthony Edwards or Jaylen Brown, because I think he has such a good feel for the game, and his playmaking is so elite that if he's starts off with 4 or 5 assists or getting teammates open looks, it opens up so much for him as the game goes on. And that's my favorite player, Luka Doncic. That's when I watch Luka, that's how I feel sometimes. Where I can see Luka hits his first three of the game, and he's only like, let's say he's 2 of 2 from the field with 5 points, but he has 4 assists. I'm like, he'll drop 30 tonight because the passes
Yeah.
are going to open up the game for him. And I think Halliburton has found his aggressiveness in the playoffs offensively, where he doesn't need to drop 30 every night, but you'll know when he starts getting these guys wide open looks. And granted, the Pacers have some great role players, but he's making them better and he's getting them in positions to succeed, where then later on in the game, it's like he can just take it over. And that's what he's done these entire playoffs. And that's where I put the big difference between Halliburton for me right now and, like you said, Jaylen Brown, Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, good thing we're calling Brown a forward. So
Yeah. Just wait till this summer when we get our top 100 list study. That's when the
yeah,
arguments. That's when we'll start butting heads because we won't have any games to watch. We'll be like, oh, I gotta rant about something, and that's when it'll go. But I'll be honest, man. I am like very, very happy for Halliburton. He's always been one of my favorites, and to see what he's been doing these playoffs, and the fact that it's been 2 months, not even 2 months, maybe a month and a half since people are like, oh, he's overrated, like he's not that good, to now it's like, oh, how good is this guy? Where do we rank him in terms of superstardom? You got the talking heads now. I know ESPN is a little different, but you got guys, I think it was Nick Wright or Colin Cowherd was put him in superstar. A month and a half ago, they wouldn't even thought of that. Hey, man, that one playoffs can change a lot.
yeah, they are. They're doing it right now. And two names I forgot. I think we're both going to take Tyrese, but I think should be in the conversation or at least brought up. Oh, one of them should at least be brought up. Trae Young
So
taking Tyrese.
here's the thing with Trae Young. I'm one of the bigger, I think, Trae Young like believers, or I like him more than most people do, because he
Yeah,
can give you 25 and 10 every night. There's not many guys who can do that. He's such a liability on defense, where you have a little bit of an advantage. And people will be like, oh well, Luka stinks on defense. Well, let's pump the brakes there. He's still 6'7" and a big body, and yeah, he can get blown by, but he can face guard you. He guard you. Trae Young can't guard you anywhere, and I think that's where Trae Young, if he was just even remotely good at defense, I think people would give Trae Young more credit than he deserves. Also, too, he just hasn't had the best Hawks teams around him, and unfortunately, this year when I thought he had a good team, Ricochet is still a rookie, and then Jalen Johnson gets hurt. Trae Young's an interesting one though, Dunny, because he's one I think I'm higher on the most. Where I think Trae Young is closer to superstar conversation than he is to some of these other guards that we'll probably throw up there.
yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm still taking Tyrese, and
I'll take
it's
Halliburton too, though. Yeah.
yeah, it's purely just size and being
Yeah.
able to defend a little
Yeah.
better. It's pretty much what it comes down to. And then the only other one's kind of a joke, but LaMelo Ball. I'm sure there's some people out there that
I
would
mean,
take LaMelo, but it's just like, what are we doing at that point?
yeah, I mean, Lamelo's fun, man.
Yeah,
He fills box scores. For his size, he's a liability on defense because he just doesn't want to put in effort. And
if we're
and
going
another thing
perfect
too,
point guard for the Hornets, it's LaMelo over Tyrese.
right? And that's the thing too. It's like, I think I don't want to be mean towards Lamelo, but we haven't seen him anywhere close to a winning team, so it's really
Right.
hard to judge him and if he can make guys around him better. Or if
Yeah.
he's just a box score stuffer. I think, but I think your list is correct with the names you dropped. I'm trying to think of any other guards. Obviously, you got Jamal Murray, but you can't really. Jamal Murray is
Oh, that's actually a good one.
he's closer to that De'Aaron Fox tier in my mind than
And
Tyrese
he's always
Halliburton.
been a second fiddle, and
And
we're seeing
exactly,
Tyrese do this as the one. So
exactly.
we got to kind of bring all those things into account. Yeah, I was trying to go through I think we kind of covered all
And then
the
I know I
guards.
said him earlier. We didn't talk about him much, but Devin Booker is. I put him in that like Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brown category.
Yeah, and it's just been a tough couple of years for D Book. Just ever pretty much ever since the finals appearance.
Right.
And obviously he doesn't get all the blame for that. Like you can question the Suns even ever going after Kevin Durant because of how much they had to give up, and were you just making the splash that you had Kevin Durant in a Suns
Mhm.
uniform, moving on from Mikal Bridges after the finals, all that stuff. None of that's Booker's fault, but at the same time, the way we talk about the guy and the way the Suns teams end up the last 2 years, it's like he does get some of that blame.
Yeah, and I think we have to remember sometimes ourselves, Dunny, that Devin Booker is a guy who could average 30 for a month without question.
Yeah,
This is a guy who could average 35 in a month. Like, this is a guy who can go on just scorching hot stretches where he'll score anywhere on the court. He'll be good for 30 a night. And that is something a lot of NBA players don't really have, like in terms of like pure scoring. And he had when he had to be point guard Booker, he was pretty good too. I think Devin Booker is one of those guys because of how disappointing the Suns have been. We kind of forget about, and I think this coming season we're going to be reminded, like, oh, this guy, he is a bucket, and that Devin Booker is closer to like a Donovan Mitchell type player. Um, but to like I said, I got to stay consistent here, and like, does Devin Booker make guys around him better to the degree Tyrese Halliburton does? I don't think so. I
haven't
don't
seen
think
it
so.
yet. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I think I'm a little. I think I have guys like D Book and Ant a little closer to the line, but like I think I'm with you. I think I'm taking Tyrese, and I think there's probably only like five, six, seven guys that you could argue. I think five that four or five you're definitely taking. Six, seven that you could argue, but I mean this is just a testament to Tyrese, the run the Pacers are on. And so yeah, I have Pacers tonight. You have Knicks tonight, but you think Pacers are going to the finals?
Yeah, I got next one, and I have Pacers in six. Pacers are a team I want to win the finals. I think the Thunder win the finals. We'll probably talk about it more next week.
Hmm.
But I do have the Pacers going to finals despite the Knicks winning tonight. One more thing, Dunny, before I forget. In
Hmm.
terms of favorite players to watch right now, how high do you have Tyrese Halliburton? Because if we're talking like old school, like just the passing and everything, like, man, dude, I don't know how many guys I enjoy watching more than Halliburton.
Yeah, that's. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that's a longer or shorter list than the last one we just did. Um, I mean, Tatum is probably up there just because
Well,
the team
remove
bias.
your Celtics for it. Remove your
Okay.
you're gonna put all your Celtics as your top like eight.
No, no, I was only gonna do Tatum from the Celtics,
Okay.
but I'll remove the Celtics in general. Trying to think, like I don't know, like would you go a guy like Luca? I would go Tyrese over
To
Luca.
watch, like, yeah,
Yeah,
Luca and Curry are my one two to watch.
I
Curry
was gonna
will
say
probably
Curry.
always be my one just because what he can do. Like, there's sometimes Curry just does stuff that you don't see anyone else even try in basketball.
Curry, Jokic are
Jokic's got to be above
no
Halliburton.
doubters.
Watch.
Um,
Giannis.
Giannis.
Hmm?
I just think there's so much more to Tyrese's game. Giannis, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like Giannis is boring to watch. I think a healthy Kawhi Leonard might be above Tyrese for
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah. He
He's
was fun to
just
watch.
both ends, dude. Like when he wants to fucking shut someone down, he just does. And that's
So would you put KD in that same camp as Kawhi then?
oh
Because he's a guy
yeah.
when he's going his
When
mid
he's
range.
on,
Yeah,
yeah. Even
I
just
think so
watching
too.
KD shoot, like that might
Yeah,
be enough for me.
exactly, exactly.
Okay, so I think I got mine. I think it's Curry, Jokic, Kawhi when he's healthy, KD,
You said
and
Tatum from the Celtics, right? That's the only Celtic. Be Tatum,
Tatum. Oh, I just had someone else. I can't remember now. Oh, and Wemby. Wemby.
Wemby. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's six.
The only ones I think I'd put above Halliburton. Like I said, I have guard bias. Luka and Curry for sure. I gotta put KD up there. I love watching KD play. And then this one might surprise you because he wasn't really like too watchable this past year, but similar to kind of Kawhi in terms of like the mid range. When DeMar DeRozan gets going, there's something about him just only going mid range, but being able to score 18 in every fourth quarter that I just love. I there's something about DeMar DeRozan. I'll just go back and watch DeMar DeRozan highlights of just him shooting mid range shots and just everything's contested. Jokic I'd probably put above too because I think we're witnessing something we just never going to see again. LeBron is an easy answer too, right? It's LeBron, but not many other ones right now. Really, not many other ones, Dunny. I think Halliburton has earned that for how he plays. Shea is like close if you just took away the free throws. You're muted, by the way, Dunny.
Oh, my bad. But yeah, I know. I agree with the free throw thing. Yeah, it's tough, man. Like I think Harden, like a couple of years ago, would probably be in the discussion, but I think I'm still taking Tyrese. Yeah, I mean, there's not many other guys, man.
No. And
It's
he's made this
crazy.
Pacers team one of the most fun teams I've had to watch in a postseason run in a long time.
Yeah, uh, it's special, man. All right, so we got Thunder Pacers as our finalists. I'm picking the Thunder to win. Like you said, we'll talk more about that next show when we actually probably have the finals lined up. Um, Anything else basketball wise? Any headlines on your mind or Mavs first pick?
I mean, they're going to get Cooper Flack, so I'm going to be watching more Mavs games this year. I'm more interested to see what San Antonio is going to do with the second pick. The one
Yeah.
thing we really didn't touch on, but it's like your classic NBA. They're just getting you ready for the offseason. Shams with just the subtle, like this is going to be the craziest offseason we've ever seen.
Hmm.
Like, classic Shams, just like put that feeler out there. I'm really, really, really looking forward to this offseason. Um, and then it feels like it happened, dude. It feels like it happened 40 years ago at this point. But we talked about this in college basketball season, Donnie, and the NBA draft. It'll be coming up. Walter Clayton and Janai Broom, man. It was everyone started getting hyped about him during the tournament, and then the hype kind of died off. I want to see where my guy Walter Clayton goes, dude. I want to
We
see
need
where he
to.
goes. The hype start not the hype, but I should say the mock drafts. It's like, oh, he's back in the high 20s again. I'm like, you forget what you watched. So I am excited for the NBA draft season. I'm excited for this off season, but let's not rush it. I know people are going to complain with two small markets. I think Pacers Thunder. If the Knicks don't come back, which if the Knicks come back, then the final sells itself anyways. But if it is Pacers Thunder, I think we're going to be treated to one of the more entertaining NBA finals in quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes to what I was saying. It's like it's the unknown. We haven't seen these teams go at it. They're both young. Both have young superstars leading them. So I don't think there's, other than me being a little butthurt, the Celtics won't be a part of it. I'm locked in, man. I want this finals. I'm glad, well, it hasn't happened yet. I hope it's not the Knicks. But otherwise, I'm going to be locked in, man. And the Walter Clayton thing, like fingers crossed, he's fucking landed 28 to Boston.
I don't know if he'll fall that far, but we'll see. The mock drafts have him in like the 20 mid 20s right now. Last thing I want to say, Donnie, not NBA related.
Yep.
Shout out Kelsey Plum. Traded to the
Yeah.
LA Sparks, second in the WNBA in scoring right now, a little north of 25 points per game. She's been a bucket, is the number one option. You got Collier from Minnesota, who she's probably going to win the MVP. She's been unbelievable at number one. And then obviously Caitlin Clark injury, tough one. She should be back in a couple weeks, but man, dude, there's been a lot of ballers in the WNBA right now, and I know we're fully focused on the NBA playoffs. Tell you what, once these NBA playoffs are over, Dunny, there's a lot of personalities, a lot of girls balling right now in the WNBA. Paige, she's carrying it over from UConn. Had like 23, 5 and 7 the other night for her first professional win with Dallas. Been a lot of ballers in the WNBA this year. It should be a fun season. So I had to give a quick shout out there because in the off season, Duddy, I'll be keeping us updated on what's going on the women's side.
Oh yeah. Yep, and I'm gonna be even more locked in this year with our fantasy draft that we have, or our fantasy WNBA fantasy
Oh
league
yeah,
that we have. So yeah, all good things, you know.
I think you
I
were
just want
second
to,
in scoring for week one. You know who was
yeah.
first though. You know who was first though. I'll give you credit for second in scoring week one, Dunny. I'll give you credit for second in scoring week one. Right?
Mr. Plum himself was
Hey,
first in points.
Kelsey
Um,
buckets. That's the name right there.
we talked about him a little bit. I do want to give Jalen Brown a shout out. I got his 741 Rover white noise.
Ooh,
Got shipped in the other day.
ooh.
These things are sweet, and I bought them to possibly wear for pickup basketball
I
shoes,
was
and
gonna
they're
say
so
you keeping
nice.
them nice, or are you gonna?
They're so nice. I might just have to keep them in the box.
Yeah, those are
And
clean.
we gotta talk about presentation here. Like this isn't your normal like Nike box. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
nice paper. There's a message inside. It's got QR codes on the box.
It's
So
clean.
shout out JB, man. He's doing it right. And yeah, the sneakers are awesome. But yeah, that I think that'll do it. We're about 10 minutes here from tip off for
Enough time to
Pacers
make a same
Knicks.
game. Enough time to make a
Yeah,
same game parlay right
there
here.
you go. No Turner points and rebounds combo. You might as well just do the Halliburton or Pascal if you're feeling
give
what
me
I'm feeling tonight.
give me your favorite prop tonight, Dunny. Before we close out.
Whew. I'll stay true to what I said earlier. I'm gonna go Pascal points. I
Pascal
don't.
points.
I gotta
All
see
right.
the line. I'll pull up a line while you say yours.
I'm taking Jalen Brunson over 30.5. I know it's a high line. I know he hasn't had it the past couple. They had foul trouble, but dude, if there's one guy who you want in an elimination game, I know we just talked about Halbert and everything, and how he might be ahead of Brown or Brunson. Dude, Jalen Brunson, man, there's some guys that just have it in their DNA, and I just feel like he's a guy when you need a win, Jalen Brunson's going to step up. So I'm going to take Jalen Brunson over 30.5 points. I think his line last game was 31.5, and he lost right at the hook the game after he was in foul trouble. So he hasn't hit in a couple games. I think Brunson's good for 35 plus.
I like that. Yeah, I found the Pascal line. So he's 20 and a half. So
Yeah,
Pascal to get over 20. I think he could be the lead man for the Pacers tonight. I think you'll see a lot of attention on Tyrese. So that's kind of why I feel that way. But we'll see. I
all
think
right,
it's going to be
Donnie.
Pacers.
Putting it in right now. The Dunny and Steve happy hour plus 165. Pascal 20, Brunson 30. There you
There you
go.
go. There
Lock
you
it
go,
in.
listeners.
Lock it in right there. Come back when it hits.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Shout out to Trainwreck Sports. Shout out Jake. He's at his brother's graduation. He'll be back next week. For Steve, myself, that was another episode of Happy Hour Hoops. Go enjoy the NBA playoffs, guys, and we will see you next week. Later.